Hi, I'm Octavia Koner. So the origin of this shirt is that I was hanging out with friends in the Staten Island Mall, and we wandered into a hot topic, as sad loner teenagers are wont to do. I was 16 years old, and I had been wearing a lot of clothing that wasn't really fitting my body type or how I felt. I was flamboyantly gay, wearing extra large t-shirts and too large pants, and I was just swimming in my clothing because I didn't know what I wanted. And I saw this t-shirt and I loved Captain Planet. In concept, mostly I just had a crush on the redhead, who is incidentally named Wheeler, who's from Brooklyn. It just really spoke to me. So I picked it up, I put it in my bag, and I walked out of the store. I didn't buy it because I was very self-conscious about buying women's clothing at the time. And it just made a lot more sense to me to just have this article of clothing without committing to spending money on it. I haven't had a family most of my life, and the parts of my life where I did have a family, they weren't very supportive of my fashion or lifestyle choices or necessities. And it felt like the only way that I could get what I wanted. And as I got older, it was the only way that I could get a lot of the clothing that I wanted. Thrift stores were even out of my price range because I was constantly housing unstable and working very low wage jobs because no one would hire me because I was trans. And I would steal from my friends because I had a lot of homeless friends, and I had a lot of friends who were also housing and income unstable. And it just became second nature for me to say, this is beautiful and I want it and I deserve to have it because I have so much has been taken away from me. It's really hard to get any sort of job when you're trans, especially when you're not passing as what people see as a cis woman. There's a lot of connotations that being trans have in a lot of people's mind. They see them as messes, or they see them as undesirable, or they'll be standoffish to customers. I was fired from my job at American Apparel, for example, because I made customers uncomfortable because I was wearing women's clothing. That was never the reason they stated, of course, but I had gone on sabbatical because I had a manager who was hassling me for being feminine, and it was a lot, so I just took some time off, and they told me to not come back. So retail is like any other job, and like any other job, it is difficult to get hired as trans. It's a front-facing job, so in some ways it's a lot harder to be hired when you're trans in retail. Any sort of front-of-house, front-facing job, they're going to want to hire people who fit what the clientele will respond best to, and people do not respond well to transgender women very often. Even like a trans woman who's like me, I create a sort of tension between myself and customers who might not even like my very existence, and that will defer people from buying things and hurt the company's revenue. It was much harder when I was first transitioning. I had gone many years between American Apparel so my retail job selling clothing, and my current job, which is selling sex toys. That is a sort at Babeland, which is a much more queer-friendly, queer-facing job, and so getting hired there was much easier than anywhere else. I had interviewed at Macy's, and I had interviewed at Bloomingdale's, and I interviewed even at very stores that are in Soho, but they're the $20 sneaker stores, and no one was really willing to hire me because of the way I looked and the way I talked.